Hello, good morning, students. In today's class, we'll discuss about what do you mean by computing environment. In our previous sessions, we discussed about different types of operating system such as early system, batch operating system, multi-programming, time sharing, real-time, distributed, and parallel system, etc. We also studied the characteristics of each of these operating system types along with the merits and demerits of each of these. In today's class, my main intention is to introduce the concept of computing environment. So here we'll study what do you mean by computing environment, how the computing environment was changed from one setup to or one category to another category. And we also discuss about the different categories of computing environment with their merits and demerits and with the characteristics of each of these computing environments. At the end of this session, after attending today's class, you should be in a position to understand how the computing scenario has changed, how it was in the early system and how it is in the modern system, and how the operating system is used in each of these computing environment, the characteristics of all these computing environments. The early computing environment is called as a traditional computing. In a traditional computing, we have a set of computers which are connected to one another through a network. And one of the computer in the network is labeled as a server. So all the services will be provided to the different computer through the server. So generally in a traditional computing, two types of services were provided by the server. One is file server and other file service. The other one is a print service. File service means any file, if the user wants to access, then the file must be stored in the server. From the server only, the file is sent to the user who requested that particular file. Similarly, the printer is connected to the main server. If any user wants to take the printout, then the print command has to be issued by the user, and the printout is appeared at the server and the printing will appear at the server. And in case of traditional computing environment, there was no remote access because all the computers were connected to one another through some communication media. So there is no question of accessing any service remotely. Portability is also limited because the different computers connected to one another are situated in the same building and they are connected to one another through some communication media. Later, to improve the portability, if you want to carry your computer from one place to another computer, laptops were introduced. But with the introduction of laptop also, portability has slightly increased, but access to remote was not possible. So in many situations, the computational burden was too much. So with the invention of mainframe computer, many terminals were connected to the mainframe computer. Mainframe computer is one where the computation was taking place in one place, and many terminals are connected to this main computer. The terminal means a terminal is one which is provided with only an input device and an output device. No CPU is there in the terminal. So if any terminal wants to do some calculation, then the request has to be sent through the corresponding input device to the server. The computation was taking place in the server. After the computation is over, the result was displayed in the output device of the terminal. But even in the case of mainframe computer also, remote access was not there. Later, to allow remote access, many companies developed their own portal, and whatever services available will be provided to the user through their servers. In such an environment, we call it a web-based computing. In the case of web-based computing, the different computers are connected to each other through some wired media. Later, with the introduction of wireless network, many companies provide access to the information of their particular company through their portals, where not only computer, even your PDA, mobile, anything can be connected through wireless network. So now from the traditional computing, we moved on to web-based computing. In the web-based computing, it's a wired connection. Now the environment has changed to wireless network. With the improvement in the technology and especially with the development of faster network, nowadays even in the home users also can access the data and information from remote places connected to the network. But the thing is how to protect your network. for network protection, firewalls were introduced. The second computing environment was client server architecture or client server model. In a client server, there are two components. One entity is called as a client. The other entity is called as a server. Generally, client requests for a service. The server provides the service. It is similar to your hotel environment. If you go to a hotel, you order for something. The server brings the food to your table. In that case, since you are ordering, you are considered a client. The person who brings the food to your table will be the server. Sometimes many clients are there, only one server is there. Basically, in a client-server computing environment, the program which initiates the request is called a client program. And the program which provides the service is called a server program. It's a type of distribution network where the tasks are distributed among servers and the client. So generally, client is the function of the client is to ask for the service. The function of the server is to provide the service. So in a client server or computing environment, the client and the server may be in the same computer, or they may be in the different places. So client may be in one place and the server may be in some other remote place. But the client and the server must be connected to each other through computer network. In the case of client-server architecture, network is must, but they need not be in the close proximity. This is a pictorial representation of client-server environment. In the diagram, we can see one server and 4 clients are connected to the server. So all the client can only send the request. The service is provided by the server only. The client-server relationship works in the fashion of request, response, message pattern. What do you mean by request, message, response, message pattern? The request message will come from the client. After the processing is over, the response message will go to the client through the server. So request is from the client, response is from the server. But in order to have that communication, they should follow certain rules and regulations. So both client and server must adhere to some set of rules. The set of rules which governs this client server response, request response messaging pattern is called a protocol. Many times there are several clients and only one server is there. The question is, which client's request has to be serviced first? So that is decided by prioritizing the client request. So the client whose request is more priority will be serviced first by the server. So for that one, some means of scheduling algorithm also must be followed. So in a client server model, the clients and server generally follow set of rules. The most commonly used rules is TCP/IP protocol, stands for Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol. Some of the examples where client server computing environment will be your www. In a www environment in your internet, what happens is, if you type any information in the Google, that information may be available in some remote server. Then you send the request for that information. Then it will search the entire web. Whichever server the particular information is available, it is retrieved from the server and it is displayed to you. So since you are sending the request for that information, you are the client. The place where that particular information is available will be the server. Another example is emails. So many people want to send an email. Then the messages are received and it is processed and it is dispatched to the destination through some of the servers. Some of the mail servers are Yahoo mail server, Gmail server, etc. Depending on the arrangement, depending on how the client server architecture is there are 3 different categories of client server structure. One is one tier. In a one tier, there is no separation between client and server. Client and server resides in the same computer. So it's a simple program running on a single computer without requiring access to network. Here there is no question of network. So all your individual PC is an example for one tier. In a 2 tier, we have 2 entities, client and the server. Client sends the request, server provides the service through the common rules called protocol. And there is some proper interface, because client in order to have a communication with the server, some proper interface must be provided for the client to interact with the server. If the interaction is through the graphics, it's called as a graphical user interface. One example for graphical user interface, your Windows operating system. Or sometimes the client can send a request to the server through typing the command. So that's called as a command-based interface. In a three-tier architecture, we have three different tiers. Presentation tier, that is a interface between the client and the server. The second one is application tier, where your processing will take place. And the last one is data tier, where your database resides. So if the client sends a request, he has to make use of that interface. Through the interface, he pass on the request that will be serviced in the service layer. In order to service it one, it has to make use of the database which is available in the data tier. Sorry. A client-server computing environment has certain advantages as well as disadvantages. Some of the advantages are data can be accessed efficiently without requiring client and the server to be reside in the close proximity. That means in the case of client-server environment, client may be in one place and server may be in another place. So they may not be close to one another. But whatever request sent that is received through some communication media, it is passed to the server and the server provides the service. So there is no rule that they must be close to one another. Since in a client-server environment, one server, all your processing takes place at single place called server. So in that case, more protection for data and also authorization and authentication of user is very, very simple. Because if the computation is taking place at multiple places, then the authorization and production of data is difficult. But processing will take place at only one place called server place. So that problem is not there. And in the case of client-server architecture, resources, you can add more and more resources without any interruption. At the same time, a client-server architecture has certain drawbacks. Centralized point of failure. Since all your processing takes place at the server end, if the server fails, then all your clients also will stop, because client depends on the server. And it is more expensive for setting up client-server computing environment. But in the client-server architecture, if we keep on increasing more and more client, then what happens is response time will be more. Because if only one client is there, one server is there, server immediately accept the request, process it, provide the service. Instead of two clients, instead of one client, we increase 5 clients. Then the same server has to now process all the 5 client requests. The time taken, response time will be more and more. So increasing the number of clients, increase the response time. It slows down the performance. The next environment is peer-to-peer computing. The main difference between a client-server computing environment and peer-to-peer computing is, in the case of client-server environment, we can easily distinguish which is the client and which is the server. Whereas in the case of peer-to-peer computing, which is a type of distributed system model, all nodes are to start with are considered as simply peers. You can't differentiate them which is client peer and which is the server. All are to start with considered as peers only. So any peer can either send a request or can process the request. If it is sending the request, that peer is treated as client. If it is processing the request, that peer is treated as a server. So same computer or same node in some situation can work as a client, in some situation can work as a server. To participate, if any of the node wants to participate in the peer-to-peer computing, first they must join in through some type of network. So all the peers are connected to the network. If one more node has to be made as a peer, means first it must be connected to the network. So here what happens is any node, because all nodes are considered as a peers only. Any node which provide any service, suppose one node is there which is ready to provide some service. So what it has to do is it has to register. That means indicating that I am providing this service. So first the node has to register in the centralized lookup service. So once it is registered, then it is permitted to provide that service. A node, later any node wants that service, first it has to search in the lookup table which node is providing what service. So after identifying the node which providing the corresponding service, then it has to send a request to that particular node. A node which acts as a client first identified which node is, suppose a node is, suppose one node wants some request or one node wants as a client. Client means one which is initiating the request. In that case, First, the node has to identify which node in the peer-to-peer environment is providing the service and send the request to that one and access the service. So to support this, there is a set of rules called discovery protocol must be provided. So discovery protocol means a node has to first identify, discover which node is providing the service that this node wants. So it is better than a client server model, because in the client server model, to start with only which is a client node and which is a server node is decided. Here no such a predetermination is required. Any node can act as a server and any node can act as a client also. Next one is web-based computing. In web-based computing, many devices need not be only computer. It could be your computer, it could be your workstation, it could be your PDA, it could be your cell phone, can access the resource. So because all these are connected to one another through some connection, through some type of network. So the main attention, the web-based computing got it attention through the with the invention and with the invention of increased speed in the networking. So now for your internet, one example is internet. For internet, anything can be connected. You can connect your internet. You can connect your laptop to your internet. You can connect your PC to your internet. You can connect your mobiles to internet. So anything can be connected. So the connection either through wire or through wireless. In the case of web-based computing, there is a concept called load balancer. So load balancer means sometimes what happens is for a particular server, the load for providing service is more. In that case, without bringing it to the client node, the load is distributed. The load is broken into, decomposed into subload, and each and every subload is given to one particular server. So instead of servicing all the requests in one particular server, it can be redistributed to several servers. But the distribution is not visible to the individual clients. Students, in today's class, we discussed about what do you mean by computing environment, how the computation takes place, and how it is evolved from traditional computing to web-based computing, and what are all the different computing environments available, such as traditional computing, then followed by client server, peer-to-peer, and web-based computing. What are the characteristics of each of these, and some of the advantages and disadvantages of client server architecture also. A client server architecture has certain advantages and disadvantages. Peer-to-peer means advantage is better than client server in the sense no need to decide and no need to pre-decide which is client and which is server. Web-based computing environment advantages: any devices can be connected to your web. So these are some of the probable questions. Write a note on different computing environment. Explain briefly client server computing environment. Discuss web-based computing environment, peer-to-peer computing environment. Discuss the tier architecture in a client server computing environment: 1 tier, 2 tier, 3 tier, etc. Let us take some simple multiple choice question on today's class. In a client server environment, dash initiate the request. Generally, request will be initiated from the client and it is provided by the server. The correct answer is A. Load balancer is a feature of load balancer is nothing but balancing the load. That means if the load is heavy, then redistribute that work to some other server which is free or which is computationally which is less loaded. The load balancer is a feature of peer-to-peer. Sorry, web-based. Load balancer is a feature of traditional computing, client server, peer-to-peer, web-based. The correct answer is web-based. In which of the following computing environment, client and servers are not distinguishable? The answer is peer-to-peer. The correct answer is B. Dash is an option for protecting network. So in order to protect your network, firewalls must be installed. The correct answer is D. Response time in a client server computing depends on the number of clients. More the number of clients, response time is more. So the correct answer is number of clients, A. Okay, students, hope you have understood what I have taught in today's class. Still, if you have any doubts, in the weekend, I'll fix up one live class in the Google Meet where all your doubts will be clear. But before attending that doubt clearance class, I want you to make a note of the doubts and which are all the questions you are supposed to ask for me, so that it's easy for me to clear your doubts. And before that one, you want to if you want to clarify anything, either you can send your queries to my mobile number, WhatsApp number, or send a query to your mail ID, or you can post your comments in the comment section in the Google Plus. Thank you.